Hello and welcome to Gardening with Ben, the award-winning gardening podcast as voted for by the Grow Your Own magazine and by my followers and by my listeners. I hope that you have all clicked that subscribe button. If you're new to the podcast channel, please do click the subscribe button and then you get notified of all the new podcasts that get launched. And if you're not following me on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok, make sure you look for Gardening with Ben and follow me on all my social medias. So sit back, relax, grab a brew and let's enjoy today's gardening podcast with Ben. Well everybody, guess who's back? We are back. Gardening with Ben is back once again. Yes, it has been since January since we have recorded a new podcast for you. And I'd like to apologise for a starter because I've not really said about why I had disappeared really. And yeah, it's been a very funny year altogether. And that's just not with my allotment in life, everything that's been in general, because I'm sure if you're like me up in the north, we have not had a good summer this year whatsoever. If you're looking back at last year's summer, we had a drought what was absolutely roasting hot. It was in the 40 degrees, and we had a water shortage and a drought on. And this year has been the absolute opposite. It has not stopped raining whatsoever at all down on my allotment. And the only days it has stopped raining is when I've been working. So hence why I've not been down at the allotment much this year. And I think it all goes back towards the beginning of the year really, well during winter period really, because I couldn't get down to the allotment much to do all the winter jobs which I'd planned on doing. For some reason or other, I think it was really cold winter, so I couldn't get much done down there. I had big plans for over the winter period as well, because the sort of things that I wanted to get done was I wanted to get all my shed rebuilt. If you remember last during the winter period, well towards the end of winter, my shed collapsed and yeah, it just went to a mess. So I had got nowhere to grow all my seeds in, and it was during one of the storms. It absolutely destroyed a lot of it. So I lost the end piece on my shed, so it was open to all the vulnerabilities. And usually in the winter period, I use that as a time to do any repairs and stuff like that, what I want to do at the allotment. So basically, I got nowhere to grow any of my seeds this year. I've obviously got my polytunnel, but my polytunnel skin's ripped, so I need to repair that as well. So that's another job that I need to do. And I think that things sort of got on top of me, and it's hard when you're sharing stuff on social media all the time that you feel like you've got to be perfect and you've got to show off what you're doing. And I feel like I've let people down by not showing what I do on my allotment this year. That I've not been on my Facebook page going live on it. I've not been on my Instagram showing pictures of it regularly and showing what's happening down at the allotment. I've not been doing these podcasts because I've not been doing much on my allotment or growing much this year. So I feel like I have let people down in a sense. I did post a post on Facebook recently and Instagram saying that I'd been away this year from posting stuff and I just had a break from it all because I've had a bad year on the allotment and I didn't think that I could share stuff with you from down there this year. But yeah, it's good to have a break as well from social media sometimes, and obviously the expectations of doing this regularly for you to listen to is also another thing to do. So hopefully we are going to start coming back now with the podcast. So I'm just wanting to say thank you for all the kind messages what people have sent me. People have sent me loads of messages saying, "Oh, we're missing you, we're missing you. When are you coming back, Ben? We love listening to your podcast when we're down at the allotment or when we're walking or when we're going to sleep." Yes, I do help people get to sleep by talking on podcasts. But yeah, I do want to say thank you to everybody that does support me. It does mean the world to me. And obviously, like I say, everything that I get from the podcast goes back towards the allotment work. So yeah, that has been this year. It's been a pretty rubbish year, and I'm wanting it to get to the end and start again next year from scratch down at the allotment. And hopefully next year we're going to be having a better year down there, down at the allotment. So you might want to know what exactly I have grown down at the allotment this year, because I've obviously not been sharing it with you all on social media, and through the podcast. So we have grown a few bits and bobs. We've got a few things growing. Not much, obviously. As like I said, I couldn't grow anything from seed really down at the allotment this year. So we have managed to obviously grow all my fruit, because obviously that's in the ground anyway. It's not something that I do need to start from seed. So as fruit has done really, really well this year. As I've said, there's been a load of rain down at the allotment this year, so I've had lots of strawberries growing. They're all now starting to send off all the runners for the plants that we can plant up for next year to fill all the gaps in. So we're getting all them sorted. But we'll talk about how to start your runners off in another podcast. Then we've had as raspberries, they've done really well. As autumn raspberries, they've done well. As rhubarb has done fantastic, because obviously rhubarb are made up of water, so the more it rains, the better the rhubarb crop you'll get. But this is around the time of year when it starts to die off, ready for next year. So soon we'll let it all die back so that all the nutrients grow back into the rhubarb crown, ready to produce for next year. Then we've got as cooking apples, we've got as eating apples, and we've got as pears. They're all doing well. And as plum tree, we didn't get no plums this year, because I did give it a good chopping back last year. So I was expecting not to get any plums this year. So I'm not disappointed about that. But hopefully we should get a good crop next year on the plum tree. Fingers crossed. And then we've got as thornless blackberries. Now these are just starting to fruit, so hopefully we get some delicious blackberries coming on them. But they seem to have grown so fast, all the long stems on them. Wow, they're certainly growing really, really fast. So hopefully we get some good crops as well coming up in the next few years. I didn't realise how far they actually grow, so we need to get them all fastened up and tied up and sorted. And then obviously we've got as new plants what we've planted. We planted some grapevines this year. Again, we won't get no grapes this year, but hopefully in a few years' time we may be able to train them and get some grapes growing on the allotment. Then we've got our loganberries. They were only planted last year, so we've not got no loganberries on them. I think I've got one loganberry on my loganberries, so hopefully in a couple of years' time we should get some of them. And yeah, everything from the fruit side of things has grown really well. So what vegetables have we got planted this year? Well, this year I planted my potatoes in boxes rather than in the ground, because a lot of the times when I'm digging them up I tend to chop into them and I ruin them, and I don't always manage to get them out of the ground. So we've tried growing them in boxes this year, so we've got to harvest them. They should be ready for harvesting now, because the plants have died back, so we can see what potatoes we've got growing there. We have got some lettuce growing. That's growing really well. We've not grown icebergs this year. We've just grown the leaf lettuce, what I bought in a multi-pack from one of the garden centres. So we've got some of that. We have got sweet corn. My sweet corn's growing really well. I'm really pleased with how well that's growing and how well it's looking. It's looking really healthy. Again, I grew the plants from the garden centre plants what I bought, because I couldn't start them off myself. But fingers crossed we'll be growing all the seeds ourselves next year. So hopefully we'll get some good sweet corn on our crops. And what else have we planted? Oh, we've just harvested some beetroot today. And if you check out my Instagram, you'll be able to see the photo of one of my beetroots that I picked today. They're absolutely massive. Now that has done really well. I'm surprised with how well it's done. Then we've got some leeks in. They're growing well. And tomatoes. I'm growing my tomatoes outside this year. Obviously, like I say, we've not had much sun here in the north, so I don't expect them to ripen yet. Hopefully, they will still ripen and they will get some red tomatoes on them. Fingers crossed. We grew them from seed from out of actual tomatoes that we bought from the supermarket this year. I tried that for a change. Rather than buying the packets of seeds, I just went to the supermarket and bought a tub of mixed tomatoes, scraped the seeds out, planted them, and all the seeds grew. So hopefully it works. But we'll see. Fingers crossed. The plants are healthy. They've got loads of tomatoes on them. We just need them to start ripening, and then we'll see what they taste like. And you never know. We might keep on doing it like that if they're growing well. I decided not to plant them in the polytunnel this year because, like I said, last year there were a drought. So I thought if we have a hot summer again, at least they're outside and they'll keep moist in the ground better than they would do in the polytunnel. They wouldn't dry out as fast as they would do if they're indoors. And obviously, like I say, it's rained loads. So they've done really well with growing and we've got lots of tomatoes on them. So that's the only vegetables I've got growing this year. I've not got much growing whatsoever. I've not got my pumpkins, I've not got my courgettes, I've not got my iceberg lettuce, I've not got my squash this year. I've not got runner beans. But yeah, it's been a very quiet year down on the allotment this year for me. But we never know. Fingers crossed it might be a better year next year. And today I've just started building my shed back up with my dad. He says he's going to help me do it. So we've done quite a bit today, got quite a bit done. So we'll have to see how we get on with it and see if we can get a shed built and cleared out ready for next year to start all the seeds off. But the thing what I've got to do for next year is find somewhere to buy the seeds because I always get them from Wilkinson's and well Wilco's now they're called, was called. Obviously the sad news that it's shutting and that is where I get all my garden stuff from. And it's been a very valuable shop to me over the years because it's the cheapest place to buy the seeds and I do get good crops from them. So we're gonna have to look elsewhere. But yeah, we'll look around. If anybody's got any good suggestions, send me a message. Let me know where to get them from, and yeah, I'll be happy with that. So that is a bit of a catch up of what I've been up to down at the allotment this last year. Well, last 8 months really. Uh, but yeah, I've got a lot of things to do, and like I said, uh, it's been a struggle. Not always good in myself. But yeah, I try to keep smiling, try to keep positive, and thankfully, it's not in that bad a state. My plot, hopefully, over the winter period this year, we can get it looking back to how it was, and hopefully make some more improvements to it, ready for next year, and make it as maintenance free as possible. Because that's the thing I'm trying to do. Is trying to make it as easy as possible. Have proper paths down rather than it just being black membrane. I'm having paving slabs down for nice paths so that it's easier to walk on. And yeah, you never know. Hopefully, over the winter period, we can get it looking back to ship shape and get it all sorted, ready to start sharing stuff again on social media with you all next year. And like I do say, I want to apologise for not doing any podcasts for the last 8 months or Instagram posts of my plot or Facebook lives. I just wanted to spend some time getting myself back to where I am in myself and hopefully start sharing stuff with you again. And as always, I do want to thank you all for your support. I do love you all. I do love receiving all the messages that you send me and keeping in touch with me. And hopefully, the podcasts are back here to stay and we'll start sharing more stuff with you again. So hopefully we'll have another podcast soon. And remember, if you are new to this podcast channel, click that follow button, click that subscribe button, and then you'll get notified of all the podcasts on this channel. There's about 250 podcasts on this channel, so make sure you go and check them out. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep shining, and keep gardening with Ben, everyone. Thank you for listening to today's Gardening with Ben's podcast. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do click that subscribe button and feel free to share it as well on your Instagram stories. All you have to do if you're listening on Spotify is click the share button and you can share it straight to your Instagram story for all your followers to listen to and help build my listeners up as well and get more people listening to it. Feel free to check out all my social medias, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. Yes, I'm on TikTok. Go check it out. Check out my dancing. Gardening with Ben. And check out the link as well in the description of this podcast where you can check out my gardening t-shirt shop where I sell funny t-shirts with all different funny logos and designs on. And feel free to support me by purchasing one, and all the money obviously goes back into my allotment where I can share more gardening tips with you all. So until next time, remember, keep smiling, keep gardening and keep listening to Gardening with Ben's podcast.